The Galaxy Watch 8 is here with a totally new design and more health tools than ever. Hi, I'm Lexy, a self-confessed smartwatch nerd, and I've tested and reviewed every single Samsung Galaxy Watch since, well, it feels like the beginning of time. With that in mind, I put together my impressions after wearing this for the past 72 hours for tracking sleep, workouts, and everyday wear. So the first thing you'll notice is, of course, that new look. Like last year's Galaxy Watch Ultra, we now have this squircle design on all of the Galaxy Watches. I really do think that this looks better in person than in photos or in renderings, but on the wrist it does look unique and it stands out from the crowd. It also feels so much more premium than the regular Galaxy Watches of old. Basically, ever since the Galaxy Watch 4, they've all felt quite plasticky and a little bit flimsy. This is the 44mm version and my wrist is 152mm for reference if you want to compare how it might fit on you. But of course, there is the smaller 40mm option as well, and there's also the classic option with the physical rotating bezel. Like earlier Galaxy Watches, this version has the touch bezel instead. The redesign also means that I'm less worried overall about durability. The cushion case definitely helps to protect the edges, and it does sit flatter on my wrist. As you can see, the new sensor design that was introduced with last year's Galaxy Watch 7 helps with that as well, but the casing and the watch bands also make it more flush. Speaking of watch bands, they are new ones this year, which is both good and bad. They feel nice on the wrist. This one's a sports band and they clip on really securely, but unfortunately you won't be able to use older Galaxy Watch bands or the standard 20mm bands like you could on previous models. It's now a new dynamic lug system, which is similar to what Samsung first introduced on last year's Galaxy Watch Ultra. Now I do have an Ultra band here and I wanted to see if it's actually compatible with this year's watches. Not that I think that you're generally going to upgrade from an Ultra to the regular 8 series, but we do want to be sustainable and not spend extra money on new bands if we don't have to, so let's see. That's a no. It is not compatible, which is a shame. The screen brightness on the watch is now a maximum of 3000 nits, which is great and very easy to see outdoors. It's actually the same peak brightness as both the Galaxy Watch Ultra and the Apple Watch Ultra if you are comparing along at home. And there's no surprises in the overall unboxing experience here. It's pretty similar to what you've had on previous Galaxy Watches, except now the watch face comes in its own casing with the straps separate so you can click them on. There's also a USB-C charging puck. And I can confirm that this new watch is not compatible with reverse wireless charging from a Samsung phone. It is something Samsung took away last year on the 7 and the Ultra series because of the new flatter sensor design, and I'm still sad about it. Okay, let's get into what else is new here. Gemini on the watch is the big one. If you've used Gemini on your phone to work across apps, it works in a very similar way on the watch, and it lets you use more natural language to talk to it. So, for example, if you want to get Gemini to start a timer based on the contents of a note or an email, you could say, set a timer for however long it takes to boil the pasta according to the pasta recipe in my email. And maybe something like, start a run and start my workout playlist on Spotify. I am finding it's 50-50 on whether or not it's actually starting the workout as well with that playlist in that specific example though. And something else that you might want to try that could be helpful includes asking questions and navigation, specifically like, where is the Mrs. Doubtfire house in San Francisco? Then follow it up with, take me there. Now, I don't need to remember the specific address. I can just keep following up and it knows contextually what I asked before. Gemini won't work offline. It does need to be connected to the internet, so your phone will need to be nearby, or if you have the LTE watch, it can theoretically work if you go out for a run or something and leave your phone behind at home. And again, you'll need to make sure Gemini on your phone is set up to have all of these app hook-ins connected properly. But overall, I am much happier with Gemini on the watch this year. Instead of the assistant, it feels a lot faster and it's much more helpful, especially when it does understand my accent. It really is like the Gemini experience on the phone, which is great. Some of the new health features I've been trying out include the new antioxidant index. So you put your thumb on the sensor for about 5 seconds and it will give you a score. Mine was initially very low and it gave me some suggestions on adding in fruit and vegetables. I was kind of alarmed at how low this reading was and immediately I went to make myself a smoothie, and I definitely tried to incorporate more vegetables the next day. I honestly feel I do have a pretty good and balanced diet, so I'm not quite sure how my levels are this low, but the most important thing to remember with any of this is it's not a medical sensor or a diagnosis of anything. And after 3 days, You guessed it, my score is still quite low. I am a little bit concerned that this might make people overly worried for no reason, but I definitely do want to do longer term testing to see if I can improve those levels. Also on board as a fitness tool is the running coach. You go for a 12-minute run and it will give you a score from 1 to 10. Then it can give you a personalized training plan based on a goal, like running a 5 or a 10K or even a marathon. I have only just started testing this and I definitely want to come back in a few months with the verdict to see if it's helpful for you and if that guidance actually works. My current score is, you guessed it, pretty humbling. Vascular load measures stress on your vascular system during sleep, so it needs 3 nights of sleep data and it will give you a warning if that load is too high. Again, a lot more testing to do here to see if this is actually a useful metric long term. There's also sleep apnea detection like we saw in the Galaxy Watch 7, plus the body composition sensor that we've had since the Galaxy Watch 4. And sleep coaching on this watch is pretty similar to what I've experienced on last year's watches as well, but the bedtime guidance is new. So this needs 3 nights of sleep data to give you hints on when is the best time for you to hit the hay. It is nice if you don't know much about sleep hygiene, but if you have a fairly regular routine, I don't feel like this is going to make a huge difference. Of course, we have to talk about One UI Watch 8, which debuts here on the new watches. Now, here's some of the new stuff to expect. The now bar, which we first saw in One UI 7, appears now on the watch for ongoing things like workouts and timers. You can double pinch to scroll through notifications, respond to an incoming one, take some photos, control music, but only from the Samsung Music Player app in my testing so far. Good news, like earlier Galaxy watches, you can still play music from the speaker. So far, I've also found 7 new watch faces like dynamic digits, daily dashboard, and the minimal analog face. The good news is these should also be rolling out to older Galaxy watches with the One UI Watch 8 update. And overall, the interface feels smoother and more responsive than earlier versions of One UI Watch, which is nice. It is, of course, far too early to make any definitive calls about battery life, especially because I found in the past that it takes a few cycles for the Galaxy Watch and WearOS in general to really get to know your habits. But some early numbers, I'm getting anywhere between about 32 to 36 hours of runtime between charges. Now, that's with the always-on display active, an hour or so of an outdoor walk with phone notifications coming through, the adaptive brightness turned on, and sleep tracking. And remember, the 44mm version has the larger battery capacity compared to the 40mm version. Okay, that's a lot to take in. As I said, I've got a lot more testing to do, but do let me know what else you want me to try. And if you found this helpful, please do consider subscribing to support my channel and to know when the full long-term review is here. See ya!